All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for the fifth session of our Echo-like training series, Supporting the Whole Child, Connecting Brain Health Systems and Practice. My name is Haley Bell. I'm the training program manager with Telehealth ROCKS, and I'll be helping to facilitate today's session. I'm really excited to introduce our speakers today. So first, we have Bethany Frazier. Bethany is the founder and owner of the Kansas City Dietitian Collective, a multidisciplinary nutrition counseling practice serving all ages throughout Kansas and Missouri. She earned her Bachelor of Science in Dietetics from the University of Central Missouri and her Master of Science in Food and Nutrition from Bowling Green State University. Bethany's passion is for personalized nutrition, helping her clients feel better than they ever believed was possible. She partners with her clients and their families to address nutrition concerns while considering the broader influences of environment, routines, and relationships. We're also joined today by Casey Warden. Casey Warden is a passionate advocate for health, wellness, and nutrition, driven by personal experiences with chronic disease, neurological disorders, and autoimmune conditions within her own family members. After witnessing the profound impact of poor nutrition on quality of life, she knew something had to change. So this led Casey to pursue a degree in nutritional sciences at Oklahoma State University, where she earned a Bachelor of Science in Human Sciences in 2020. Casey now leads transformative efforts in school nutrition, focusing on farm-to-school initiatives, craft cooking, and local food sourcing. Her mission is to help children and families access nourishing meals that support long-term health and prevent disease because she knows how powerful food can be. So we're super excited to have Casey and Bethany join us for today's session.
Okay, well, I'm so excited to be with you guys. If you see a dietitian in the wild, you don't normally think of like a fun person. Usually, I'm not the one that people want to invite to parties. They're like, oh, she's a dietitian. I don't want to invite her. So, we're going to start with some fun things because I think nutrition is fun and not just because I'm passionate about it, but because I do think that there's a way to make it fun for ourselves and for our kids that food should taste good. So, I'm going to start with a little question, and I want you guys to write in the chat, what is the number one veggie eaten by kids? So what do you think is the number one veggie eaten by kids? Write in the chat what you think your response is. I see corn, tomato, carrots, potatoes. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what it is. Go on to the next one. Okay, so the number one is actually potatoes. And this is mostly in French fries. And then the second is tomatoes, which is mostly tomato sauce. So that's like pizza and pasta. So we have a lot of children, as we can see, are eating maybe not a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. 27% of kids don't eat a single veggie in a day, and that's even accounting for potatoes and tomatoes. So pizza and French fries. By the age of 2, most children have established their taste preferences. That's going to establish them for a lifetime. But what we know too is by the age of 4 to 5, that most kids have established those eating habits. So you think about when a kid transitions to being in a school environment, they have a little bit more, they have more pressure to eat maybe in a certain time frame or at a certain time, or they see what their friends are eating. So they lack some of that internal response to eating in a certain way, and they start to eat based off of what everyone else is doing around them. So this is still a really good opportunity for us to come in and say, okay, well, what is actually nutrition, and how do we help them have the most nutrient dense and varied diet as we're supporting them through their lifetime? So I think the number one question that I always get asked is what is healthy? And the hard part about this for most people is that everyone has a different definition. So we're going to try and come up with a definition today that's really simple and applicable to every person, whether you're looking at for yourself, for people that you work with, for your own family. We want it to be something that's really practical that you can remember. And the two things that we're going to look for at every eating opportunity, and this is something that I talk to probably all of my clients about, is what is your protein, what is your plant? We make it a little more complex for adults, but really those two key questions that you're going to ask at every opportunity is really going to define what a healthy meal can look like. If you look at this picture, this is a picture real life of my family. So this is obviously age appropriate, but you can see for myself, I have a salad, a Cobb salad that is has a lot of different things and it's all mixed together. And then you can see on the left is a picture of my kid's plate. It has most of the same elements. This one actually that day didn't end up with any lettuce on their plate, but they have fruit, they have avocado, they have an egg, and it's appropriate for her age at that time. So one thing to keep in mind as you're looking at introducing kids is that they often are coming across new experiences all day long. So when they're at school, when they're just living their lives, they experience new things all the time. And then they are introduced to new food, and that's really overwhelming to them. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Casey.
Good morning, and I just want to thank you for having me here. And Brittany, that was terrific information because it's a lot of it is what we try to model with our student food programs too at school. So I'm just gonna kind of let you know what we're doing at Coffeyville. So starting out, we're serving around about approximately 1,700 students, and that is from birth all the way to 12th grade. We run several programs to the national food program. So USDA has lots of regulations and rules that we have to follow too. And fortunately, those do pertain to what Brittany was talking about the amounts of protein and your plant foods, the different colors. We've got to engage all those, but more importantly, those are very strict with what we do. And the training that my staff has to go through is pretty incredible because we've got to meet those daily and weekly amounts of, say, like red, green, orange, the leafy greens, the legumes, the protein. So to do that, because we are usually under, tight budgets, the Farm to School initiative was the best way to go about that. So the school had a greenhouse that wasn't really being fully utilized, and I asked permission to use that. And while we want to use it as more of a production greenhouse, the idea still was to use it as a classroom space too. So not just where students can come and learn about what they're growing, but also give teachers and other staff time, place to bring their students if they want like a non-conventional type, classroom. So we also have a 40-foot shipping container that was purchased through a grant, well, actually two grants. And we started that December of 2024, and it's operated by my department, Child Nutrition. And we have done since 2024 in December. We've harvested around about close to 2,000 pounds of leafy greens, and we do grow some herbs like basil. We've grown some cilantro in there, but mostly a lot of different types of leafy lettuce. There's been some kale, bok choy, things that we can add directly to our salad bars for our kids. So the challenges, I did mention some of those. So the thing is that schools are often the most consistent source of nutritious meals for many children. Budgets and opportunities, those affect school food service, and it's also it affects the alignment and education of food service. The thing is that most teachers, staff, administration, even community, they don't really see how we're called lunch ladies are connected to education. Most are, they believe that we're just there to feed children. And yes, we're there to feed children, but there is a method to the madness. Besides, USDA rules and regulations, we've got state, to follow too. But the important part of this is that students they can't learn effectively when their basic nutrition needs are not met. So we already know that many children have limited access to fresh produce outside of school, and this is where our national programs come into play. So putting this in a unique perspective, schools are positioned to improve nutrition access, and the great the nutrition impacts that we have is academic performance. We can impact attendance. We can impact physical health and mental well-being. If you don't, have nutritious, nutrient-dense foods, you're competing with behaviors in the classroom, headaches, achy bellies because they're hungry. And we did go through that because you put all this fresh food in front of kids, and the exposure to it at first, it's overwhelming, and a lot of them they don't get that. So um, now they have a choice. They're looking at it, they're seeing it, they're seeing their friends, make those choices. So um, even though we do have that unique position, it is, I always mention too that the federal level that involves the reimbursements of what schools can serve, um, that is a big impact too, because it's expensive to do this. And one of the biggest barriers is that the federal reimbursement rates for school food has not increased at all in decades. So that's what we're working on too, but that's probably one of the biggest challenges. Next slide, please. So how do we do this? We do this by continually negotiating with our vendors in procurement, working with the community, constantly making community connections, polishing the procurement. It's become a very big important in keeping our budget sound so that we can still continue to serve better food, quality food, and then constantly involving in the kitchens. And that's training my staff how to prepare this food, how to present the food, and then of course continuously and seeking out grants and community support. So we also utilize the resources through Child Nutrition and Wellness at KSDE. They've got Farm Fresh Fridays they've developed. They've got Harvest of the Month developed, and these are all great for nutrition education in the classroom too. So I did mention the produce that we grow, but that salad that you see right there is things that we have grown in that hydroponic garden. It's lettuce, and there was some well, we had some different colored lettuces. The bok choy was mixed in there, and we had some other ones. Some of the mustard greens we tried, some of the red we try to hide with stuff, but we're also looking at, I'm trying to teach them how to use that in some of the stir fries too. So, but the kids they're already recognizing, like, some of these have an earthy flavor, some they might have like a slightly bitter flavor. But they're noticing the flavors in the foods that they're growing. I guess we can go to the next slide, sorry. So when we look at what they're learning outside the classroom, I've got I've got a manager and a cook that help me primarily in the greenhouse and in the hydroponic farm. And what's, I guess, the most interesting and rewarding is the conversations that we get to have with these kids. They don't normally really think about, I don't want to do gardening. There's some of them, they've said that they're not interested. But when we've got them, especially into the hydroponics farm and the opportunities for STEM, I mean, you're not just growing plants in there. It's, managing pH of the water, electroconductivity. There's so much science, so much. I mean, there's math, but it's not math like what you're looking at in the textbook. And they get interested. And we've had them where they've come to us and asked us if they could come back and work in there. But they're learning. They're seeding plants. They're transplanting the plants. They're harvesting their food. They're learning about food systems and also in service learning opportunities. And like I said, the plethora of STEM opportunities alone with this Farm to School initiative is just immense. So next slide, please. And then bouncing back to exposure. One of the most, effective strategies for the increasing symptoms of the healthy foods is just repeated exposure. And the research shows that you've got to expose them multiple times before, a lot of times before they're even willing to try it. I have kids coming through the lines and I've watched them 10 times look at the food, and they've even looked at me like, I don't know, or make a face. And then one day, just like this one here, you see she's got cucumbers on there. She was one of them that specifically, she's really funny. A lot of the kids, they developed such great relationships with all of our staff, and she even said, I'm going to try these today. So she did, and she gets them quite repeatedly. She may not take anything else, but she loves the cucumbers. So what we found is that students are often more willing to try the foods if they know where it comes from. So exposing them not just to the new foods, but how we're growing this. I do have a few hydroponic towers that are at the elementary right now. We have struggled getting them to work properly, but in the meantime, we have a few times. The high school students are mostly the ones that are going into the hydroponic unit, or the hydroponic unit, the farm, that are working in there. But I see this year that we're going to be able to get the elementary students in there too, and I'm pretty excited about that. So knowing that food preferences begin developing early in life and that can persist into adulthood. So we expose the increased exposure to a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables during childhood. Schools just have the opportunity to influence dietary patterns that can support long-term health outcomes. Very important. Okay, right. Next slide. So when we're talking about supporting the whole child, and I love this, it just requires creating systems that connect, nutrition, education, nutrition and health, and community. And our greenhouse and hydroponic farm have shown that school nutrition programs can be powerful drivers of student wellness, both inside and out of the classroom.